Welcome to Being Reel With Olyvia. My name is Olyvia Olinger and I love movies and shows. Arcane Season 2 is coming out November 9th. I am so excited to watch it and review it. I have been recapping every episode of Arcane Season 1 leading up to Season 2. This is Episode 6, so if you haven't seen the other episodes, go check them out. But if you have, then let's get started. This episode starts with a flashback of young Victor. He was playing with a toy boat he invented that could float and move through water. The boat got caught in a stream and led to a cave that had a weird dinosaur axolotl dragon thing named Rio in it. A scientist, much like Victor, made her through a mutation. Victor was an outcast even back as a child. He still couldn't walk that well, and he was a brilliant inventor for a kid. Since Victor didn't have any friends, he decided to help the scientist with his experiment and keep Rio alive since she was dying. When I first watched this, I thought the scientist dude looked incredibly familiar. And it turns out he is someone that we still see in the show during the present times. So if you have any guesses on who he is or who he could be, make them now because at the end of the episode, I'll review who it was. Jace is feeling lost and conflicted since Victor is dying. He had spent so much time improving trade in Piltover with Hextech that he forgot what the important thing was, which was helping Zaun. He goes to Counselor Medarda for advice, since he thinks she's amazing and everyone looks up to her. Counselor Medarda reveals that even though she's an independent, strong leader of Piltover, she's considered weak and unworthy back at her real home, where she was exiled. She fell short of Medarda's standards. Vi is badly injured from fighting Savika in the last episode. Silco's goons are chasing Vi and Caitlyn, but Vi falls down a cliff, leading the bad guys to go the other way, losing them. Savika goes to report back to Silco that they lost the girls, but instead Jinx was waiting for her. She wants answers for who they were looking for. She knocks out Savika and questions her. Savika tells her Vi is back looking for Jinx, but she's with a girl enforcer, who we know as Caitlyn, and replaced Jinx, not needing her anymore. Piltover enforcer, or should I say Piltover trader Marcus, is still second-guessing working with Silco. When he comes home, he hears laughter coming from his daughter's room. Going in, Marcus sees his daughter playing blocks with Silco, which would have been a touching sentiment under any other circumstances if Silco wasn't trying to threaten him. Marcus was in charge of making sure Vi never came back and killing her, but instead he threw her in prison where Caitlyn helped get her out. Silco isn't happy that she's back because not only does it jeopardize his plans, but if Jinx finds out, then he's screwed because she's gonna leave him. Silco tells Marcus in a very passive-aggressive way that mistakes are okay as long as they aren't repeated. If Marcus can track down the girls and get rid of Vi for real this time, then all will be forgotten. Victor and Jace are experimenting with the Hextech runestone. It's been responding to organic matter, but then it dies right away, rejecting it. If it works, it could cure Jace and save Zaun by extending anyone's life and doing incredible helpful things. But Victor is running out of time and he can feel his body giving out. Vi fell down to the pit of Zaun, where everyone who's dying, poor, and degenerating goes. It's getting bigger, and there's more people than ever, with Piltover thriving and Zaun suffering at an even more rapid pace. Vi keeps seeing her sister Powder through her memory and isn't doing so well. Professor Heimerdinger goes to see what Jace and Victor have been working on with the new evolving runestone. Immediately, once he sees it, he gets a flashback image of arcane magic destroying worlds and nations. The seed that did it looks just like the Hextech rune that Victor has now. He tells Jace and Victor that they must destroy it, and he can sense that the magic is changing Victor and corrupting him. Jace doesn't want to destroy it though if there's a chance that it could save Victor, so he decides to make a council meeting where the counselors will all decide and make a vote. Vi is losing a lot of blood and she passes out. Caitlyn goes out to find a doctor and see if anyone can help. But since they're in Zaun, and also the even worse part of Zaun, there's no one. Instead, a guy who looks just ruined from Shimmer helps Caitlyn get an antidote, which happens to have a drop of Shimmer in it. Enough to heal, but not enough to harm. The guy who helped Caitlyn was a friend of Vi's. He owed Vander his life, so he wanted to save her. He didn't want to go back and see Vi because he didn't want her to see him like this. He seemed to open Caitlyn's eyes that the people of Zaun aren't the bad guys. Well, Silco is, but The innocent civilians are just trying to survive, and she sees how corrupt and greedy Piltover has been and what a privileged life she had. This is another guy who was in the previous episode, so if you have any guesses who he is, make him now, because I'll reveal at the end of the episode recap who he is along with the scientist guy. At the council meeting, Professor Heimerdinger explains that the city of Piltover has lost its way and how divided everyone and everything is. The runestone is dangerous, and Piltover is so out of touch with Zaun and its own people, focusing too much on trade and other cities and power. Jace argues back that Piltover doesn't have time. There's so much crime and Shimmer going around that they need to act now, and they need to do it with new technology. The council makes a vote that the Hex rune will stay, but Councillor Heimerdinger won't. They voted him off the council into retirement. I just want to take a moment to talk about this situation. Half of me agrees with Jace, and half of me agrees with Professor Heimerdinger. The runestone is incredibly dangerous. I mean, we saw in the previous episode how it took Victor's blood, and we still don't know, what it's doing with that, and how that's gonna affect the rest of the show. And also, Piltover is divided, and it completely left Zaun in the dust. Instead of focusing on all these new inventions and technology, they should work towards helping Zaun first. But Jace is right about all the crime and bad stuff that's happening. The runestone could not only save Victor's life, but the lives of so many more. Like the people who we saw in the pit of Zaun that are dying and drug addicts and not exactly living their life. I almost teared up when they kicked Professor Heimerdinger off the council. He's an amazing character, even though he is kind of stuck in the past and he doesn't really want to move forward too much because he's not used to it and he knows, the dangers of magic can be. But also, he needs to understand that you need to take risks and do some dangerous experiments in order to see, if they'll work or not. I can see where Jace is coming from, but I also definitely see where Professor Heimerdinger is coming from. Meanwhile, back to Vi. She takes the Shimmer and it heals her, but she's angry and frustrated that she still hasn't found Jinx or any answers to what's been going on with her. Caitlin asks Vi about her parents, which was a touchy subject for her since her parents were killed by enforcers and Caitlin is an enforcer. When Vi steps outside, she sees Silco, who feeds Shimmer into the people who are dying to turn them into monsters. As they begin to attack Vi, Caitlin knocks a rickety tower over that falls on them, leading the girls to escape. Jinx wants to find her sister. She lights a flare that will signal to Vi. Remember that she told her that if she lit it, Vi would always find her. We see another flashback of Victor as a kid helping the scientist with Rio. He's carrying over a crate of purple glowing flower things that Rio has been eating. But when he gets there, he sees Rio is screaming out in pain and she's tied up with tubes. The flower things that the scientist has been feeding her have been making her worse all along and slowly killing her. Young Victor runs away, never going back. And why, you ask? He was doing that to Rio, feeding her those flowers that were hurting her, was so that he could make Shimmer. Revealing not only that Shimmer came from his mutation experiment Rio, but that he's the guy who's been working for Silco. Victor goes back to him in present times, where we see Rio is in a liquefied state. He tells the guy that he understands now why he did it. His name is Singed or something. It's Singed. So I think it's Singed or Sinned or something. I don't really know. I'm gonna call him Singed because he has a little fire scar on his face, a burn mark that, looks singed. So I'm gonna just go with Singed. But if that's wrong, feel free to correct me in the comments. Vi finds Jinx and his sisters reunite. Vi explains that she couldn't go back for Jinx because she was in prison, but she thought about her all the time, and now she's here to stay. Like Sabrina Carpenter, the moment is short and sweet. Jinx sees Caitlin and freaks out, since she has crazy trust issues and is super insane. Vi managed to calm her down a little and almost convinced her and got through to her, but then the Fire Nation came and attacked, also known as the Fireflies. When they were all fighting, Vi saw how unhinged and gone Jinx was. She is no longer Powder and the sister that Vi once had. With Jinx distracted and the Hex gem still on the ground, Caitlin grabs it, taking it for herself. But then the Fireflies knock her out and capture Caitlin and Vi, leaving Jinx without the orb or her sister. And that's how the episode ends. I like all the random character side stories we have going on here that tie into the main plot. Like, for example, Singed, his story, how Shimmer came to be and how he created it and how he originally had ties with Victor, which makes sense since Victor was originally from Zaun in the Undercity. There's so many random Easter eggs in the show that have characters from the past or flashbacks that have 2 seconds of screen time that pop up in the present tense still. Like when Victor was younger and he was playing with his toy boat, we see a girl notice him. She looked like she was about his age. And we hear one of her friends call in the distance her name, which was Sky, which in present times of the show is Victor's assistant, which I don't think I have a clip of her since she wasn't really in this episode, but if you look her up on Google, like who was Guy from Arcane, you can see her. And speaking of Easter eggs, now I'm gonna reveal who the guy that helped Caitlyn save Vi was. It was Huck. This guy right here. Basically, he was the guy who I believe in episode 4 was getting screwed over from a deal, and Vander stepped in and saved him, getting his full money back. So I thought that was a cute little thing, even though he didn't really have much screen time in episode 4, or wasn't really, like, much of a character. It was so cool. Honestly, now that I'm rewatching the show for, like, the 700th time, and I'm recapping it, so I'm really getting, like, an in-depth experience of the show. There's so much that I missed before, and so much crazy lore behind the show. I mean, look at, like, all this, like, script and notes I've been taking. This show is really good. So if you haven't seen it yet, I highly recommend you watch it. And I'm gonna say this in probably every episode until you actually do. Or at least watch my recaps to see what goes on, because I pretty much go over everything. I'd love to know your thoughts in the comments, what you think of all of this chaos and stuff going on right now, and what you think's gonna happen next. Make sure to like the video if you've enjoyed, and subscribe and hit the notification bell so you don't miss any more recaps. I'm probably just gonna stick with Arcane recaps right now, since season 2 is coming out in a couple days, so I really don't have that much time to be doing movie reviews right now. I believe Arcane season 2 is a 3-parter, so the first episode comes out on November 9th, and then the second episode comes out, like, on November 13th or, like, some other time during November. So I'll post a movie review in between then. But for now, we have a lot of episodes to cover still. So thanks for watching, and I hope I'll see you around.